Alright, what's going on, guys? I'd like to take a few minutes here to go over my complete Dungeon Dice Monsters collection. So I have it stored in this pretty good case. I'll open it up for you, very sturdy. I've taken this on planes multiple times, just a great way to carry this thing around. So there are 3 layers here. This is the top layer, and we're going to go over all the figures individually in a few minutes. But they're just stored perfectly in these little holders. Here is layer number 2. That's still missing a couple figures. I got a couple more on the way, and then I'll have to end up buying a couple more, but has room for a few more. And then here on the bottom layer is where all like the not figures, but all the other important stuff is. We got a playmat, we got counters, and all this other stuff. I'll go over all that later, but let's get the deck box out, which is where the cards are stored, and then we'll go over each of these figures and cards individually. I am not going to go over the effects and the stats and all that in great detail, because that would just take way too long, but I'll just kind of show you each figure and card in the artwork. Let's start here with the first ones. So these are the Monster Lords. They don't have any cards to go with them. I don't think the Japanese version came with any cards for these guys, and by the way, all these cards are in the Japanese version and all the figures. When I first started getting back into the game, I chose to go with the Japanese version just because there are a lot more figures and cards available in the Japanese version. There's 144, I believe. In the English, there's maybe like maybe a third of that or something like that. But there's our Monster Lord, one for me and then one for whoever I am playing against. And all of these figures are in order of when they came out. So up first we have the starter set, then we go to booster set 1, booster set 2, and then all the way down. And the cards are in order as well. So first up, first card is Twin-Headed Dragon. From the booster pack, here's Twin-Headed Dragon. Early on in the booster pack, in the starter set, did I say starter set 1? It's from the starter set. Early on in the starter set and in the early booster packs, these cards and figures don't have very good detail, and this greatly improved later on. These came out, I believe, in the year 2000, so I mean they were designed probably in the late 90s, so you can see that the detail just isn't there. If we move on, next up we got Knight of Twin Swords, also from the starter set. The first several are from the starter set. This is one of the better figures, I think. Has a pretty good effect, but we're not going to go over effects because this would take way too long. Next up, Blast Lizard. If we're talking about effects, this guy probably has one of the best effects in the game, but again, very basic, not too much detail on these guys. After that, what's this thing? Oh, Gator Dragon. Again, one of the, I think, least detailed figures out there. I mean, they could have at least painted the pupils onto this thing, but they did not. But there's our Gator Dragon. Next up is Strike Ninja, another fairly good card. The starter set actually came with a lot of really good cards. A lot of these are very playable, even competitive with some of the later booster packs, which have a lot of really great cards as well. Next up, probably one of the most iconic Dungeon Dice monsters out there, Thunderball. Cool design, really cool effect. Another really good card. Alright, next up, Magician Dragon. Another absolutely amazing card with a great effect. This guy and Blast Lizard probably have the 2 best effects in the game. Alright, then we got Orgoth the Relentless. Another really good monster, really classic Dungeon Dice monsters. Figure and card, also used in the anime. Let's go to row 2 here. We got Crocosaurus. This guy is very fragile. This thing breaks off almost all the time. I've had a couple of these figures, and almost always the little sword here ends up breaking off. But there's our Crocosaurus figure. Really, really poor detail on this one. Maybe I'll show you like some of the future figures compared to some of the older figures later on. Then we got Mighty Mage, another card from the anime, another rather poorly detailed card. For some reason I always feel like Mighty Mage is a female. I don't know if it's the long hair or what, but I've heard some people refer to her as a him, so I don't know if it's a male or female. Alright, so that's the starter set. Now let's go over to booster pack 1. Dark Fire Dragon, I think is what this thing is called. Still fairly plain, lacking a lot of detail, but I do think Booster Pack 1 already has some better detail than the starter set does. Next one, we got Battle Warrior. The colors on this one don't match completely. Here he's definitely more blue with a little bit of purple. Here on the card it's definitely a lot more purple. So this happened also a couple times where the figure and the card don't really match in design. Alright, next up is Silverfang. This one's got a pretty good amount of detail on it. Like but a lot of the fur is actually kind of carved into this guy pretty well. Fairly standard look at little Dungeon Dice monster figure. Alright, Mystical Elf. Again, if you look at the face, really no detail on there at all. Just a solid blue, but the card does look pretty good. 13th Grave, another one where the colors don't match. Here we got blue and red. On the card it's definitely green and red. So pretty good figure, but it looks very, very basic. Alright, Zombie Dragon. Not much to say about this one. I think this figure is actually pretty well designed. Got some good details on this one. Dark Assailant. A rather useless figure in my opinion. This guy's effect has to do with item cards, which are really not that good in this game. I think early on they thought they probably would have made more and some better item cards, but they did not do that, so this guy is rather useless, and he's a level 3, which makes him pretty costly to summon, I guess. We got another level 3 Mystic Horseman. Don't remember his effect, but I do think it's pretty good. His stats are also pretty good. Another solid little figure from Booster Pack 1. This video is going to take forever, and we're barely going over each figure. Alright, we got Gaia the Fierce Knight, solid level 4. This guy's not a flying type, but his effect says you can attack flying types. So you can still do damage to flying types without having to pay the additional movement crest to move him. So this guy is actually, I think, a pretty solid card in my opinion. Detail is okay on the figure as well. Alright, next one we got the super iconic Blue Eyes White Dragon. Detail I think is okay. This is I think the common figure. Some of these, especially the rarer ones, did come in variant figures, so where the color is just a little bit different, but I'm pretty sure this is the basic, most common Blue Eyes. In this game, I don't think it's really that great of a figure. A lot of these higher level figures and cards in this game, I don't think are worth the added trouble of trying to summon them. Here we got a Carabona Lola Warrior or something like that. Not exactly sure how to pronounce the name. Solid little figure. I think his effect has to do with boosting up your other warrior type monsters. So if you got like a warrior type deck, he's pretty good. Alright, we got a jellyfish. Really nothing to say about this one. Literally nothing. Pretty boring little figure. Alright, we got Paradragon. I think this one is actually really well designed and made, really good detail, like they actually painted the pupils and whatnot. Like I showed you earlier, some of them didn't have any paint on the pupils or anything like that. This one actually I think has a pretty good amount of color and a good amount of thought went into designing this figure. Alright, next up is Killer Needle, aka Beedrill. Not much I can say about this one. Not a good monster at all. A lot of these guys aren't really good monsters, but you do have to play some low level ones in your deck to just get them out on the field a little bit easier. But fairly standard little design. Next one is one of my favorites for being like a super common one. It's Beaver Warrior. Like, who doesn't like Beaver Warrior? This one also, I think it has a pretty good amount of design, but actually let's compare this to Paradragon. So I think they're both from the same booster set, And Parent Dragon, the details are just better. Seems like there's more effort placed into like designing and painting it compared to Beaver Warrior, where it looks more amateurish. So I don't know what's up with that, but it is one of my favorites. Alright, next up is Rock Ogre Grotto. Unfortunately, here's another one where the colors don't match. Here he's rock colored, like grayish. Here he's like moldy rock colored, like a greenish yellow. So another case of just the figure and the card not matching. Alright, Dark Chimera. Don't remember its effect. Can't remember if it's good or not. Again, the colors don't really match. They're both like tan, but this one has all these blue accents, which on the card are not really even visible. Alright, next up is Ansatu, I think is how you pronounce it. Really great card. For 3 Trap Press, you can negate any effect of an opposing monster, which is really good. But yeah, again, this one's very poorly, not poorly designed, but poorly executed. Like, you can't see any sort of details on it, which is weird because, like I said, Parrot Dragon is from either the same booster pack or an earlier booster pack, and that one is better designed. Winged Dragon Guardian of the Fortress #1 is next. And again, this one, you can see the details. They painted a pupil, they painted teeth. The details on this one are a little bit better as well. I think this one looks really nice. Alright, Nico Gal. They tried to paint some details here, but I think it came out pretty poorly. I don't think the figure looks very good at all. Feral Imp. This one, again, I think the details are really good. Even if we just compare the last 2 figures, I don't know if you can see the eyes all that well, but here they're painted pretty well with a lot of detail, and here they're not. So I don't know why some of these figures have better details painted on them and some of them don't, even though they came from the same time period. Alright, Crawling Dragon. This guy has to do with like placing, his effect is like placing shelled ground tokens, which again I think are kind of like a wasted resource. It was a cool idea, but it's not, in my opinion, very playable. But the details on this one again look pretty good. Giant Soldier of Stone. Solid little figure. One solid color. At least here the colors match, unlike on Rock Ogre Grotto. Alright, we got Yoranzo. Another great figure. Trade any 3 crests for any 1 crest of your choosing. So having this guy in the field just makes all your monsters more playable, at least with their effects. I think it's also a fairly poorly executed figure. Just the details don't look very good on this one. Battlesteer. Solid little figure. No effect. Can't say much else about it. Here he's got a long cape. Here he's got a short cape. So not super well executed. Also lacking any sort of detail on the eyes and the face. Alright, this next one. Can't even pronounce it. It's like Genekeko Megami or something. The figure looks nothing like the card. Look at this hair. And then look at this hair. Like, they could have tried a little bit harder on this one. The colors also don't look very... They don't match that well. I think this is one of the more poorly designed figures. Alright, I think this one is Maribel or something. I think it's actually a pretty good card. I don't remember what it does. This also might have been the first card I pulled out of a booster pack when I bought them. Not sure, but there it is. Alright, Curse of Dragon. Super iconic card. This one, on all of them, I've had a couple of these. It's made in 2 pieces, and the top piece always seems to break off the bottom piece. So here I actually ended up gluing it on just so it wouldn't keep coming off. And they're not broken, because it happens to all of them. It was built in 2 pieces, and the 2 pieces don't stick together very well. But there it is. It's a level 3, and it's only got 20, 20, and 20. So there's a lot better cards out there than this one. but it's a pretty easy one to get and pretty iconic, one of Yu-Gi's main monsters. Alright, so let's move the top section out of the way, and the second section does have some way cooler monsters, by the way. But we're not going to start there yet, because the first one we're starting with is Beautiful Headhuntress, which is the absolute worst card in here. Level 3, 20 attack, 20 HP, 10 attack, 10 defense. This should be a level 1, not a level 3. Again, it's lacking any sort of details there on the face, no painted eyes or anything like that. So, pretty poorly designed card, monster, and the whole thing is not good. Black Skull Dragon. This one's got some pretty good detail on it. Another pretty iconic card. It's also pretty good. Got 40s across the board up here. 40 HP, 40 attack, 40 defense, which is pretty good. No effect, but still a solid little card. Good looking figure. Then we got Red Eyes Black Dragon. Not much else I could say about this one except that it's super iconic. It's got 30 HP, 40 attack, 20 defense. Also a level 4, so if you have both of these, the Black Skull and the Red Eyes, no reason to play this over the Black Skull. So that's also another problem with a lot of these cards. Once you get some better ones, a lot of them are kind of useless. They're still kind of fun to play, especially if you like randomize the decks if you're playing with someone. But competitively, they're not that great. Forgot the name of this one, but it's not very good. Details on the figure are okay. Is it Mountain something? I don't remember. This one starts with a G. I also don't remember it. Little insect type looking thing. Next up, I remember this one. This is Basic Insect. So now actually, this is Booster 3, I think. And now the details are starting to get a little bit better. On the last several ones that we saw, the details are actually pretty good. And I think going forward now, all the details on all these figures is better, as well as on the cards. The cards also look pretty good. Next up, Mushroom Man. Solid, I mean, not a lot of details on it, but everything you need is there. Solid, good-looking little card and figure. Mammoth Graveyard. There is a variant to this figure. I don't think I have it though. Don't remember what it looks like. A lot of details put into this one. This is a hard card. This is a hard figure to design, because how are you gonna get all those like bones and all that to look good? But I think they did a pretty good job with it. Next up, the card, and the card's not very good. It's not very playable, but I love the figure. It's a Crass Clown. Really solid little design. I wish they would have made the other zombie clowns into Dungeon Dice monsters. This is like Tau something, forgot the name of it. I mean, it's a weird card, but weird card, weird figure. Not very useful either. But like, see, white lettering on a white background. You can't even see what the stats of this thing are. Poor design choice. Alright, then we got Red Archery Girl. The details on this one, not great, but they're okay. And this is actually not a super rare card, but it's a rarer card from this booster set, which is something I've noticed. They don't show up on eBay a lot. Armored Zombie. There's also a variant here. Both variants have red coats, but one of them is like a dark red, one of them is like a lighter red. And what's interesting is his ability requires 0 crests, but in the English it requires, I think, 3 magic crests. So there was a little change made there from the English, or from the Japanese to the English version when they did that. Shadow Ghoul. It's a little dark on the figure. The card's a little bit lighter, but it's also, I think, a really well-made, well-designed figure. Hercules Beetle. Solid little level 2. It's got a pretty good defense at 30 and a pretty good HP at 20. So it's a good little tank to use as a defender, an easy one to get on the board as well. Urabi, I think is what this guy's called. Your classic little dinosaur. I think Yugi played really early on, but I'm not sure on that. Maybe, no, was it Rex played it? I don't know, I remember it from the early anime. Alright, Megasonic Eye. Not a great card if I'm remembering correctly, but it is a little bit rarer. This guy doesn't come up for sale too often, but I think it's made pretty well. Simple little design. Alright, forgot this guy's name, but again, I think they nailed it right on the head here with this design and this execution. I think it looks really good. Alright, Meteor Dragon. Also, I think this is a really well-made card and figure. See, like this one, level 3, it's got, what's that, 30? So 30, 30, 30 across the board. So as easy to get out as Curse of Dragon, and you get 10, an additional 10 in each single stat line. So no reason to use Curse of Dragon if you got one of these guys. Alright, Illusionist the Faceless Mage. Not that great of a card. Not that great of a figure. It's a level 3. Tough to get on the board, and his stats aren't that good. 10, 20, 30. Alright, we got Sanga of Thunder. This is the only Gate Guardian piece that was made into Dungeon Dice Monsters, which is a little upsetting. Would have been cool if they made the other two. Also pretty good effect. You can redirect one attack that's targeted at him towards someone else for 3 trap crests. So this guy can stay alive for a long time. I believe this is Gazelle, King of Mythical Beasts or something like that. I think this is my first one from Booster Pack 4, if I'm not mistaken. Really good design, however, it's very delicate because the only piece that is touching the base is this back leg. They could have had like these next 2 legs at least touch it. It's very fragile, very flimsy. Alright, and Karibo, who doesn't know what this guy is, I think it's pretty well executed, super simple, pretty good card as well. For 6 trap crests, it can switch spots with one of your monsters, so basically you can sacrifice it if something else is getting attacked or that sort of thing. Solid little figure, love this little guy. Alright, Time Wizard. I pulled this guy out of a pack, and when I did, he was already off the base, so I kind of had to super glue him back on there. But yeah, solid little card, super iconic from the anime. Pretty good design too. Celtic Guardian, another super iconic figure. It's a solid little level 2 monster. You can add an extra 10 attack or 10 defense when you spend a attack or a defense crest. So not too bad of a monster for a level 2. Next one is another one of my favorites. Really good design. It's Catapult Turtle. Forgot who had this. I think it was Yugi in the anime. But when you summon him, you can destroy a flying monster on the field for 3 trap crests. Is that trap? No, 3 magic crests. Also a pretty good defender. 20 HP and 30 defense for a level 2 monster. So pretty good defender there. Alright, Buster Blader. This guy actually came in the English starter set, but in Japanese it came in Booster Set 4. Pretty good monster, especially if you're playing against some dragons. I also think it's very well made. There's a lot of details on there. They're all painted really, really well. So not only one of my favorite cards to play, but a solid figure as well. We got Barrel Dragon, which also I think is a really cool figure. The card's kind of tough to see because it's a really dark color and a dark background, but the figure looks really cool. Alright, next we got Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, which is a pretty good card, but it's hard to play this guy. His effect is something like you gotta spend you can only move 1 square per turn, no matter how many movement crests you spend. So it's got really good stats, but it's hard to use once you get it on the board. So if you do put it on the board, you gotta make sure he's put in a good spot early on. Alright, next up we got Alpha the Magnet Warrior, and as of right now this is the only Magnet Warrior I have. That is going to change pretty soon. I'm going to get the other couple because when you play them all together, they're actually not too bad for level 2 monsters. They all kind of build off of each other. But these guys were one of my favorites when the original TCG cards came out. Alright, we got Cannon Soldier, which is like a little nerfed version of the Blast Lizard we saw earlier. Not as broken. You gotta spend 3 Magic Crest and sacrifice one of your monsters to destroy one of your opponent's monsters. It's still a really good card and I think a really awesome figure. I really like this guy, I really like playing him. But it's not, well, it's probably not as good as Blast Lizard, depending on the situation. Alright, next up, Millennium Shield. 10 HP, 0 attack, but it's got 40 defense. So putting this guy somewhere where your opponent has to attack it would be pretty difficult as long as you have some defense crest to spend. That, of course, assuming that your opponent doesn't use any sort of effect. Alright, now the last 3 are booster packs 6 and 7. And here is where the details really got a whole lot better. So this is Exodia. Alright, really good details on this one. They put a lot of effort into not only this one, but all the figures in booster pack 6 and 7. A lot of details on the card as well. It's an okay card. He doubles all the crests that you roll, but it's not amazing for a level 4. He's only got, I think, 20, 20, so not an impossible card to destroy, but it's still a super iconic one just because it's Exodia. Next up, I think this is the best detailed figure. It's Thousand Eyes Restrict. I really love playing this one. For 3 Magic Crest, you get to permanently take control of one of your opponent's monsters, and you put it on the spot that this guy's on. And hopefully the details come out well, but this is a really well-made figure. Feels really nice. Doesn't feel like those little plastic toys like the starter set and booster pack 1 figures were. It's just a really nicely made figure that there is a lot of attention put to detail. And then from booster pack 7, our final figure here, Garnecia Elefantes, which is a solid level 3, 40 HP, 30 attack, 20 defense. And once he has 2 damage counters on him, I think he gains an extra 10 defense permanently. So another pretty hard card to destroy. And it's got really nice details and a really nice paint job. Alright, so as you can see, I don't have all the figures, but I've got a pretty good amount. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times 4, that's 40, 50, 60, 70. I got, well, 73 figures plus 2 Monster Lords. So this is way more than enough for me to be able to play a lot of different games with different decks. If you randomize it, or if you pick your decks, whoever you're playing with, there's not an endless amount of possibilities, but there's enough different cards and figures in here that it makes it fun every time. So let's go over the base here. Here are the dice. And you've seen what these guys look like, hopefully. And we've got our 2 crest counters that came with the English starter set. The Japanese starter set came with these like little tokens that you got to keep track of, which is a pain in the butt. They did actually make these crest counters in Japanese, but they sold them separately from the starter set. They're a little hard to find. The only real difference is the Magic Crest. Don't know if that comes out well. It looks different on here and on the English dice than it does on the Japanese cards. Same thing with the defense crests. They just tried to get rid of like some religious looking symbols. Actually, let me show you here. So these are the Japanese dice. I think 15 of them came with the starter set. Then each pack came with 1 more of these. But up here you can see what the defense crest looks like in the Japanese version. And then if I show you here on the dice, there's what it looks like in the English version. They just got rid of the cross. Actually, while I'm doing this, I might as well show you what a Magic Crest looks like. That's what a Magic Crest looks like on the Japanese version. And on the English, it's that little lightning bolt symbol. So they did make a little change there. These were a really cool concept. So one, they're the actual dungeon figure, not the figures, but they're the board, the tiles that the monsters walk on, and they also fold up into dice. So this was a really cool concept. Just the execution's not there. These are not really practical to roll. These are a lot better to roll. And then once you unfold them, if you've used them enough times, they don't necessarily sit flat anymore. And plus they can also break. So really cool concept. They probably could have done a little bit better on the execution. but the English version went to these standard dice, and then you got these tiles. So the English version definitely has improvements as far as dice and tiles go compared to the Japanese version. And then the starter sets came with a mat, which was just kind of like cardboard paper. So I went and got one of these pretty cool custom mats. So not only does it look a lot nicer, it looks a lot more official, but it's also a lot sturdier. So there's my Dungeon Dice Monsters collection. Hope you guys like this video. Hopefully I can get some more Dungeon Dice Monsters content out there soon. And I'll see you guys in the next one.